We all know farming has changed. With new and ever-advancing technologies, American farming and ranching doesn't look like it used to. Across the country, in operations big and small, we're making choices that help keep agriculture sustainable for your grandchildren and ours. Our values are the same. We grow crops and raise livestock and poultry, so you can raise families that are happy and healthy. And thanks to innovations in agriculture, we're feeding more people with fewer resources. With innovation come questions, and we're here with answers. So let's talk. From basic terminology so you can speak the same language and ask the right questions, to complex topics like environmental impact and GMOs. Food dialogues exist to provide answers to your questions about food, straight from the people who produce it. So get to know who we are, how we work, and why we love what we do.
Thank you for joining us on Agri-Pulse.com. Joined today by Chandler Goule, the CEO of the National Association of Wheat Growers. Chandler, appreciate you joining us.
Thank you for letting me be on your program today.
For starters, I'm looking to get the timeline of your career, the places you've been, as far back as you'd like to go, all the way up until the present.
Well, I think it really has to go all the way back to when I was 9, when I joined 4-H. 4-H has been a huge aspiration in my life. It helped me and taught me to learn to set goals, and then of course I worked through their entire program. I had very supportive parents also, not only through education but then through FFA. Went on to school at Texas A&M. Got a degree in animal science because I was going to be a large animal veterinarian, and as you can see, I am now in the commodity industry.
You took a turn here.
I took a little turn. I took a little turn there, and every animal science major at any land grant is always going to be a veterinarian, and so, but most of us land in other careers. Texas A&M's got this wonderful program. It's the Agriculture and Natural Resources Policy Internship Program, ANRP. And it was actually quite competitive, and so I applied for it my junior year. And I had gone to school at A&M on a Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo scholarship, and when I applied for that internship, I wasn't even granted an interview, which was kind of a first. And so I went to then Dr. Townsend, who was the dean of the College of Agriculture, and I said, I didn't even get an interview, what do I do? And he said, well, you need to get your grades up to 3.25, get involved in more collegiate activities, run for an office, and apply next year. So that's what I did, and I applied my senior year, and I came to Washington in the fall semester of 1998, and I had the luxury of working for Charlie Stenholm, who at that time was the ranking member on the House Ag Committee. I was in his personal office. I was from his congressional district. And moving to Washington, D.C. was not even on my radar screen. I thought this would be a fun semester in Washington, then go back to Texas, graduate, and then go on to vet school or do something else. And I moved up here, and that was almost 18 years ago. So I stayed on the Hill for 11 years. I worked for the Blue Dog Democrats, and then 7 of those years were on the House Agriculture Committee. And then my final job was staff director for the subcommittee on livestock, dairy, and poultry, back to livestock again, for the 2008 Farm Bill. And then I spent almost 6 years at the National Farmers Union, and then left there. And as of next week, I will be at NOG for 1 year.
So kind of a long path through Washington, and I want to talk specifically about your time on Capitol Hill first. I got to imagine you were there for 2 farm bills. There's got to be some good war stories there.
There are days. So I was a junior staffer during the 2002 Farm Bill, and then clearly I was a subcommittee staff director during the 2008 Farm Bill. And there were plenty of long nights, especially during the 2008 Farm Bill as the subcommittee staff director. At that time, currently ranking member Peterson was the chairman. We did subcommittee markups, and then every subcommittee would then take their bill to the full committee for the full committee markup. I mean, we actually went through regular order, and it was a wonderful exercise, not only for the Congress but for the staff. And not going to name lobbyists, but there might have been a couple times we had to literally break up a few fights in the hallway over a couple very sensitive issue areas. Lots of late nights. Some people may remember Congressman Lincoln Davis from Tennessee, and I'm going to mention Ann McMillan and I were wandering around one night because we had locked ourselves out of our office, and it was late. It was after midnight, and we had been working on a markup. And here comes Lincoln Davis down the hallway, and he lets us into his office while we sat there and waited for the superintendent to show up and to let us into Ann's office so she could get her keys, and then we went back to my office, got my keys, so we go home.
Yeah.
This is 1 o'clock in the morning. You know, a lot happened during that time too, though. Since I've been here in D.C., I was here for 9/11. I was here for anthrax. I was here for the sniper. I stressed my mother out severely. My stepdad even called me. He was like, "Can you please come find a job back in Texas?" But you know, working here in ag policy and getting to do two of my favorite things, work in politics and agriculture policy, and being able to join those two together, which I didn't even know was a career, has just been very rewarding.
And then after Capitol Hill, you go to NFU, and you were there quite a while. And from the outside looking in, you seem to have a pretty good gig going there.
I did. National Farmers Union has definitely got a role and a voice here in Washington, D.C. It's the second largest general farm organization in the United States. I started as the VP of Government Relations, and then after 6.5 years, I left as the Senior Vice President of Programs. I was over membership, communication, government relations, and the foundation. And so, you know, it was a wonderful opportunity, and I got the ability to grow there and learn how to manage and to function within an organization like that. But when this position came open over here at the wheat growers, I was ready to move up, and there was no more upward movement left at Farmers Union. And as a matter of fact, President Johnson worked with me and encouraged me to pursue this job, and I think because of his mentoring and leadership. And then also I had some very good people to help me with references, like Chairman Lucas also encouraged me and helped me secure this position. And it's just been a fantastic year. As I mentioned, July 5th will be my 1-year anniversary.
So a year under your belt, what's been kind of the biggest learning experience, you know, going from being someone very high up in an organization to being, you know, the guy high up in an organization?
Well, I've got a very funny story. So like week 3, I was here, and I had already bought a plane ticket. I know this seems kind of minor, but I'd already bought a plane ticket at Farmers Union to go to North Dakota. And if you've ever flown to North Dakota, you can't get there for less than $1,000. And I had now changed jobs. Well, I was the only person that could use that ticket because my name was on it. And so we were going back and forth between NOG and Farmers Union about who owed who money so that we could transfer that ticket over here. Just, you know, just a little bit of nuance here. So we worked out an agreement, and I walked down to our director of finance, and I said, is this how you want to do this? And so she read it over. She said, well, is this how you want to do it? And I went, does this work for the books? Because I had to realize that when I say something now, people go ahead and start to do it. And I think you probably know me, Spencer, well enough that I'm a little sarcastic and I joke a little bit, but now I also have to think about when I say, like, let's go do something, I need to clarify, is this an idea that I want to float, or is this something that I want you to start working on? So that was a little bit of a learning curve, and but everybody's adjusted well, and everybody's been very patient with me as I've moved into this role. The first 6 months, I think I had about 9 fire hoses blowing on me. But now we are fully staffed, and I think it's smooth sailing, and we're definitely prepared to move into this next farm bill.
And I know we want to talk, you know, more about you and do a personnel profile here, but talking about NOG and your role in it, when you took the job, what were some goals and ambitions that you had kind of for that first year on the job?
Well, you know, the main thing that when I was interviewing, I said that we would make sure that the conversation was, where is corn, soy, and wheat during the farm bill? We are the 3 largest commodities grown in the United States. And part of that message started to kind of dwindle in 2008 and 2014. You kind of started to hear more of where's corn and soy, especially during the 2014 farm bill. And I think as you go around and have seen our increased output in communication, that one of my main goals was to make sure that we had members of Congress and the Senate and the administration saying, well, we can't move forward until we know where NOG is. And I think we've been very successful in implementing that, and we will continue to push forward to make sure that our voice has to be heard before things can move forward.
Mm-hmm. In your time in Washington, who would you say has been your biggest mentor during your time here?
Well, you know, I encourage, I do a lot of career counseling now, or young people coming into town of, you know, what to do. Should they work on the Hill? Should they work for an NGO? And the first thing I tell them is you need to get 2 or 3 people who have already been in DC for 20 something years. Make sure you have Democrats and Republicans that you can go and bounce ideas off of. And one of my first would have to be Vicki Walling. She was my first chief of staff for John Tanner. I've always gone to her for career advice. Sally Donner, another good friend of mine who worked for Kraft Foods and then was at Olson Frank and Weta for a while, is someone that I've always gone to. Randy Russell, I've talked to him about some career advice as well. So, as you move through, and then, of course, Secretary Vilsack and Krista Harden are others that I've gone to as especially when I was even applying for this job, if this was the right move for me. And, take in all their advice, and then I always call my mother. So even though she's not a Washington, doesn't live in Washington and is not directly involved in ag policy, we still have to get the final approval over there before we make any major life decisions.
And you've mentioned some of your Texas connections. Went to Texas A&M, still have the Aggie ring?
Still got the Aggie ring.
Still got the Aggie ring.
Aggie pillows behind us here. We are, matter of fact, the internship program that I came up here on, which was really life-changing for me. Again, I didn't know that you could take agriculture and policy and politics, and I didn't know that was a job. We are currently hosting a Texas A&M intern here at the NOG office. We will do that every semester as long as I'm here. So I'm doing everything that I can to help students who are like me, that are coming from small towns, 4-H and FFA backgrounds, that are interested in agriculture policy, that want to work here. We host them here every semester, and hopefully they will stay here, because you and I both know when you go up to Capitol Hill, so many offices, the Ag LAs are just handed agriculture, and we are all better off if we can actually get people who come from agriculture production backgrounds to actually be the Ag LA, who understand row crops and livestock production and how it impacts rural America, and also why food security is a national security issue for us.
I talked to a former coworker of yours, and this person told me that you got to ask him lessons learned about driving a Texas-sized pickup down the streets of Washington, D.C., and also why does he do it?
So I do drive a 4-door Dodge Ram truck. I've had it here for 10 years.
Half ton, 3/4 ton?
It's just a half ton.
Okay.
That was big enough. And it's got a Texas A&M sticker and a scuba sticker on it, and then it is cherry apple red. You can see me coming for miles away, and then my exhaust system fell off of it a couple years ago from the snow and the rust and the salt, which I wasn't used to from Texas, and so it used to be loud enough you could hear me coming, but I've had that fixed. I've always driven red trucks. It's a little bit of a part of my personality, and I look to continue it, and I want people to know that when they see the DC license plates coming through town, that I'm still from the country, I'm still from Texas. I just happen to live here in the District of Columbia.
So you're trying to maintain your Texas identity here, even though you have to have plates that say taxation without representation on them?
Which just irritates me to death. That's exactly right. If I add another sticker to the truck, it will be a Texas sticker.
Yeah. And you said there's a scuba sticker on there too?
A scuba sticker and an A&M sticker.
Okay. Are you still, I know you were certified at one point, are you still scuba certified?
I am.
Okay.
I'm an advanced diver, and I'm actually going to Australia for over Thanksgiving to go for the first time to dive on the Great Barrier Reef. Okay. And I'm an avid downhill snow skier and water skier. So those are my 3 main sports that are activities I like to do when I'm not working with wheat growers now.
What's your favorite dive up to this point?
My favorite dive would definitely be Molokini, which is off of Maui. It's a crater dive, and you can do a wall dive that goes down to about 120 feet. Great views down there. Every now and then a great white comes by. But when I was doing my checkout dive to get my advanced certification, it was in January, and the whales were all coming through, and so we were seeing them breach the water on the way out to the dive site.
Wow. And
once I went under to do my skill set, though you couldn't see them, they were singing all around me, and it was so tranquil, it almost put me to sleep. I was afraid I was going to fall asleep at 60 feet, and that's not a good idea, but that was definitely by far my favorite dive.
I was also told I need to ask about Alice the dog.
Alice. So I have a yellow lab over here. This is not Alice. Alice comes to work with me every Friday. Mm-hmm. She is my 10-year-old yellow lab, and I've been dog sitting her since she was a puppy, but I actually became her owner when she was 5. My brother died, committed suicide about 5 years ago, and so I went on and worked on the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Board not only to help myself, but to help others who have mental illness or mental well-being is something we've ignored in this country for so long. And we look at the 80s farm crisis, look at what's happening now. It's something that happens in rural America and affects agriculture. My dear friend Elizabeth Wise, right after that, said that they would like for me to have Alice. And so I'd already been keeping her, but I've had her for the last 5 years. And in days when I don't have a lot of meetings out of the office, her dog bed's right over there. There is a ball over there. We might play a little bit of ball here in the office.
So, what happens with office productivity on Fridays when Alice the dog comes to visit? Okay.
It increases, just maybe not during the hour when we get here and right around lunch, because the whole office plays with her. And so we are a dog-friendly office, and matter of fact, Caitlin, our communication director, brings her dog in every now and then, and so we welcome both our friends on 2 legs and on 4 legs.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned one foundation. I understand there's others in play too, specifically National Arboretum.
There are. I'm also on the board of directors for the Friends of the National Arboretum. We are the private foundation that helps raise funds to do private and public partnerships with the Arboretum. The fact that ARS's budget has not been increased, or the National Arboretum's has not been increased for over 13 years. By the time you add inflation to that, of course, that's less dollars. And so I co-chair the annual dinner, which we just had a few weeks ago. And so I sit on that board, and then I'm now off the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention board. But then I'm also working with other organizations like Common Threads, which is an organization that goes into economically challenged neighborhoods and teaches young children and middle-aged children how to shop for healthy and nutritious food, but then also how to go home and to prepare it so that it tastes good, so that we can help infuse more nutritious and better foods into those neighborhoods and areas. So I'm not on their board, but I do a lot of work with them currently right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm guessing you probably have a pretty full plate just with your job as is. I mean, why go out and be involved in your community on the level that you are?
You know, whether you're religious or spiritual or whatever your belief system is, mine is to get up each day and to make myself a better person. What can I do to make myself better? What can I do to make my community better? And what can I do to make the world better? And so being involved in my community, whether it's FONA, which is right here in Washington, D.C., whether it was the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, which is national, and then just self-improvement is important, because you've got to have that well-rounded balance. I think not only to be effective in your job, but to also, we never stop learning. The day you stop learning is the day you die. And I think in order to continue to grow as a person, so that I can not only lead this organization better, but I also want to be active in my community so that it's a safer place to live.
Mm-hmm. And we'll kind of shift back to the workscape here. But in your time in Washington, how has it changed from your eyes?
You know, my time on the Hill, I would have, and I don't think I'm saying anything. The only reason I left the Hill was because of the pay. I loved working on Capitol Hill. It was so much fun. It was hard work. It was long hours. But there are salary caps over there, and then you have to move on. I will say that the passing agricultural legislation, working on the farm bills, is getting increasingly harder and harder every year. As the consumer moves further and further from their food supply, as we begin to have more urban members in the House of Representatives than rural members, it's taking some creative thinking, working outside of our box of agriculture. How do we expand our coalitions? And you know what? You meet those people on those boards that I just mentioned, like the Friends of the National Arboretum. You'll meet somebody who maybe works in something completely different, but once they find out that you're involved in agriculture, you can find some, what I would call, uncommon links to increase the strength of your coalition and to build your voice to make it stronger, because this next farm bill, I think, will be passed. I do believe that President Trump will sign it, but it's going to take more than the agriculture and the conservation and the nutrition community to get it through both chambers and to the president's desk. And so, but the job is still fun. And you know what? I had a bad situation happen at my house a couple months ago, and I was actually on the West Coast when it happened. And the first thing I did was call a couple of my friends, and the ones that responded were two of my friends that grew up on a ranch in Montana, went over to my house, took care of the situation, and got back to me, and everything was fine, and there was nothing serious that happened, but it just needed to be taken care of. And when you really need something, I always go back to those who grew up on farms and ranches, because they're just the best people. They've got the best hearts. They'll do anything for you. There's a lot of we have a great Aggie network here in Washington, and that's what still makes the job so wonderful. We may disagree on a policy issue, but then we can all still get together in the evening, and we're all still friends, and we all have similar backgrounds, and it makes the job a lot of fun.
And I'll wrap up this interview the same way I do all the others as well. If you could go back in time and speak to the Chandler Goule that was walking to the office on the first day of the job on Capitol Hill, and give him any one piece of advice, what would that be?
If I could go back, don't hang up on the president.
Ooh.
I hung up on President Clinton twice.
Hold on. We're gonna alter the interview here a little bit, because that's a story I need to hear.
So, like the second day of my internship with Congressman Stenholm, I was on the phones, and so the phone rang. So I answer it, and I said, hello, Congressman Stenholm's office. This is Chandler. Can I help you? And the other end of the line said, this is Eagle One calling for Charlie Stenholm. I thought, okay, this is a prank call. And the congressman's just right over there. He's not here. And so then I hung the phone up. And so then the phone rings again. And I said, hello, this is Chandler Goule from Congressman Stenholm's office. And can I help you? And they said, well, this is Eagle One calling for Charlie Stenholm. And I said, sir, I already told you that the congressman is not here. This is clearly a prank call. I mean, who is that? And then, so I hang the phone up. Well, then I hear the phone ring in the back of the office. And Lois Auer, who many people know, was Congressman Stenholm's AA, comes to, yes, she picks up the phone. I can hear her. Yes, just one moment. And then the phone rings in the congressman's office, and he picks up and the door shuts. And so Lois walks up to my desk, and she looked at me. This is literally day 2 of my internship, and says, when they see it's Eagle One calling, that's the president calling from Air Force One. You hung up on them twice. So they took me off the phones for a week, and I'm like, well, that wasn't in any manual. Nobody told me who Eagle One was. And you do get some very interesting phone calls in congressional
from
offices.
What I've heard, yes, yeah.
And so don't hang up on the president would be my first one, but clearly I didn't lose my job. But really on a serious note, what would I tell myself is set your goals. And when I left that internship on my last day, Lois Auer asked me, where do you want to be in 5 years? And I said, I want to work on the House Agriculture Committee. That's where I want to go. And within 5 years, I was working on the House Agriculture Committee. And then once I got to the committee, I had to think, where do I want to be in 5 years again? And I was still on the House Agriculture Committee. But 2 years beyond that, I was the head of a government relations shop. And then I had to start thinking, where do I want to be past that? And now I'm heading a commodity organization as the CEO. And again, it all goes back to my parents' interest and help in my education, but it goes back to 4-H and FFA of teaching me that if you set goals, you will accomplish them. And it's proven that if you write down your goals just one time, you're 75% more likely to achieve them. And I have my goals on my refrigerator at my house of things I want to do. Do I go back and reevaluate them every now and then? Of course. And change them? Absolutely. But the number one thing I would tell you is set your goals and keep your eye on it, because you will eventually get there.
Chandler, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.